What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Muscle Media Network, another episode of For the Love of the Game. If you're listening now, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, like the video, send it to a friend. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Ronald Poe, owner of the Poe Fit Instagram training. And so Ronald is one of Turner's close friends. These guys go way back. So I'm going to hand it off to Turner, and we're going to let it roll.
Yo. Ronald, how are you feeling?
What's up, buddy? I feel good, man. I cooked 10 pounds of steak, 20 pounds of chicken. I smoked some salmon. I sent you that pretty picture. I know you like that.
I don't even think I've got to look at it yet. Which picture?
The one, all that food I just finished right in time for the show.
Tell me about that shirt you got on. Like, what were you doing all that manly stuff and you decided you wanted to put that shirt on?
Listen, guys, this is my lucky shirt. Every time I wear this shirt, something good happens. If you look closely, this is Baby Turner, 2010. What were you, Bantamere?
No, what's before middle?
No, Welter. And then this is medium-sized Turner, 2016 USA's. I thought arguably one of your best looks on stage. I thought you got overlooked big time. I remember we ate a ton of sushi after that show. It's kind of eased the pain. Yeah. But this is just a small, and you're about another 25 pounds bigger than this now. So this is when your legs were so much more overpowering than your upper body. And then now it's all come full circle and you're pretty complete, I'd say.
Yeah. Pretty, how many years ago was
girl?
2016?
7 years. Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. Hey, well, anyways, I didn't mean for you to get all into my backstory or whatever. Listen, as coaching goes, this is a question that you and I talk about and just things that go on in this all the time. And I think everybody looks at this a little different, but like when you're put in a position to really coach someone where you have to manipulate, where when you're changing things that they're doing, chemicals they're putting in their body, how harsh they're pushing themselves in a prep or in a prep for, in life, in a prep, trying to make progress, whatever it is. When you have to manipulate someone, because that's what you have to do as a coach, you know what I'm saying? Like you're having to, I think we talked about this on last week's Tommy, where when someone's within 6 weeks of a show, I refer to them as fragile. And I don't mean like you're going to go in and like tear a muscle, but like, as a coach, you're playing dad, you're wearing all these hats, but at the same time, that the person that you're dealing with, you have to pick and choose the words and the way that you talk to these clients when they get into certain phases of all this. Tell me what comes to mind when I say this thing.
I think it's all dependent on the personality you're dealing with, right? I mean, various people compete for various reasons. I'd put everybody on this podcast. I'd say we were probably about as serious as it gets. I mean, it could be the Joe Schmo Classic, but that is our Olympia. I don't think there's ever been a time I've stepped on stage personally not willing to do whatever it took to, be my absolute best or whatever I thought was the right thing to do at that time. There was no regard for consequences whatsoever, but not everybody's like that. And it did take me a few years to learn that. I scared a lot of people off in the beginning when I first started. I started coaching probably 2013. I think I started coaching people. And I mean, you scare a lot of people off. I've broken a lot of spirits just being too hard on them or saying the wrong thing that you end up just kind of crushing their spirit. Something that would, theoretically motivate you and me. I know you and I are really motivated by people telling us we can't do something or we're not good enough to do something. And so, I felt like at the time, a lot of people would respond similar. So I guess kind of circle back as far as manipulating, you have to be very methodical the way you word things to certain people. So it has to be based off their goal, what you think they are and aren't willing to do. And their confidence plays a big role. If somebody's behind and maybe a little bit in prep and we're 6 week mark, you know that, hey, we're going to have to kick it up. You have to be strategic, maybe the way you word it, because you don't want them to get inside their head and next, cortisol's through the roof and it's going to combat them making progress even more. So The longer and longer you do it, you kind of, you have to know when to, push the gas and push the brake.
Exactly. Tell me, like, what are some of the like checkpoints that I know we all do this in a different way? Like some people, and you're one of the ones that has always told me just like take a little bit of time off versus like, or I mean, Ronald and I can go back as far as like foods and all the things. Like there was years when Ronald met me where he'd be like, "Dude, you should eat bagels," and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not eating that shit." Like, what I'm asking, the mental checkpoints where you see that you've run someone so far down that it's like, okay, what do I do right here? That way we can take a step back, but we can also take 3 or 4, maybe 5 steps forward in the.
I think it used to be just go, 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 go. Less carbs, more cardio. That was just always the answer. More T3. And a lot of people did it that way, but then you start to realize that it was having negative impacts on a lot of people. So I mean, some of them will still come in great because they respond to anything. They're resilient. When I start seeing people just like, they completely lose energy just on a daily basis, like just getting up, going to work, can't stay awake, just having, I try to pick up just on a lot of mental cues and physical cues going on throughout their day. How many days have we been low carbs, high carb? How many days have we been pushing it? I like to set a lot of people up in a prep on like a 5-2 kind of split. I read a book a while back, Lyle McDonald, and how he used to do that with a lot of his female competitors. It made a lot of sense to me because just from a hormonal perspective, obviously, if everything internally is functioning, then the fat typically melts off, right? So that goes anywhere from mental, physiological, however you want to look at it. So a lot of my guys since most people are Monday through Friday people, they'll, you tend to be busier. This is how me personally, when I was in prep during the week, I didn't really get as hungry. I was because I was super busy on my schedule. I didn't have time to sit back and think till it was time for bed. But on the weekends, you tend to have a little bit more free time. You tend to think about food a little bit more, get a little bit more hungry. And I've noticed a lot of the people I was coaching, they tend to cheat more on the weekends too, especially as you get closer into preps. Cortisol is getting high. You have that heightened sense for sugar and just taste. Just I was talking about it just the other day is my final meal, my last prep, I would do a protein shake. I would just do 2 scoops of whey and I would crush up ice and water and I'd make a consistency of it. So it was almost like ice cream. I put a little salt on it. I thought that was the best taste in the world. I was like, man, I could do this meal forever. And then like when you get off prep and everything's just back to normal, you're like, this tastes like shit. Fuck this.
Right.
So it's just amazing how that changed. But anyways, so I'll tend to, if you're pushing somebody 5, 6, 7 hard days in a row, outside of most people, you're going to start seeing, more water retention. The weight will stall. The weight might even go up a little bit. Some cues like that. So I typically at that point is, what I like to do a lot on the weekends, I'll do like, when I say a refeed, it'll more or less be higher carbohydrates. It supposedly takes, your body 2 to 3 days to realize if it's in a caloric surplus or deficit for leptin levels to adjust. So like on a Saturday, Sunday, I'd like to, bump up carbs, maybe, I don't know, 1 to 2 grams per pound of body weight, just depending on, I guess, what place we are. And I may pull cardio back just, steps. I might say, hey, let's hit 10, 15,000 steps a day and nothing strenuous, nothing that's going to be taxing on your adrenal glands or anything like that. And just, and depending on where the body fat is, sometimes you just don't have enough time to do that. So you got to grind it out. You might be like, well, we got to push. So I've gotten to the point now where I like to do longer preps. I used to be fine with doing 12 to 14 week preps with people, but now I like to I try to do a 20. It gives you just a little bit more time, especially if it's your first time working with somebody, to kind of pick up on those mental cues. Is it a type of person that gets in their head? Are they all in? Are they really like, if you tell this guy to go out and eat dirt, is he going to do it? Or is he, is he the guy that like, man, I got my ritual ice cream routine with my my girlfriend. We go out drinking every weekend. So you got to kind of fill out the person to see what they are willing and not willing to do.
When you're feeling them out initially, what is your first go-to? Like when they, they see their plan, it comes to you or it comes to them, they look at it, they come back and they hit you with that first, in mine and your eyes, it's like that first little question of where they're like, are you sure this is how we, I don't mean like they're second guessing you. They're just like, well, where is the good part of this diet? You know what I mean? It's like, but they're like, well, where's the cool part where it's like the sweet and tasty treat or,
Yeah. And that's,
what
that's,
is, time out, because the way you and I think, what's your first go-to thought? It's not it might not be what you text, but what is your first thought?
Oh, it's like, dude, shut the fuck up, pussy. you were choosing to do this. Like it is it's a luxury. Like it's to even to be able to say to do this for fun, to put ourselves through this type of suffering and mental abuse. Like it's a luxury. We're lucky to even be able to do it. Like people choose to do that all the time. So when people complain to me, and I ran a guy off the other day just because that's kind of gotten to the point where I'll pick up new clients or people reach out to me. I feel almost guilty, but it's like, hey, I'm not trying to run you off. I really want to make sure your mindset's in the right place. Like this is gonna suck. Like you're gonna get to a point where you're like, why am I doing this? I want to quit. And then at that point in time, those decisions you make, that's what's going to determine the outcome. Are you going to be peeled on stage, or are you going to come in holding a few extra pounds of fat and get beat because of those few weak moments you had during it? Yeah. So, I mean, that's usually a first red flag. If we drop food or bump cardio up, people are kind of like, they already start complaining and stuff. I go ahead and just set the prayer. I'm like, look, man, this is just the beginning. This is about to suck. And you need to find a way to put yourself in the right mental mindset just to go to a dark place and be comfortable with that and stay there. Well, my first initial reaction is like, dude, you signed up for this. This is you.
Yeah. And then you have to reword it into something where it's like, all right, well, this is kind of fitting for the situation. I want them to know I'm serious, but at the same time, like I have to make sure I don't poke the bear too hard right off the bat.
And I try to stay positive about it too. I mean, that I don't want to say it. It seems like more people than not, they get their feelings hurt a little bit more easily. It makes me sound old and cliche, I guess, but you just have to be, you don't want to, because I've seen people just basically shut down altogether. I've had people quit because maybe I was a little too hard, and maybe if I had massaged it a little bit better and been a little bit not so direct, I do make a point now. Anytime I send a response to a competitor, I always lead it off with something positive and I finish it off with something positive.
Right.
A lot of times that's hard to do. But I'll take a minute to really be like, hey, you know what? We're still not where we need to be, or, you've made a ton of progress. This is a great week. But hey, we're bumping cardio 30 minutes.
Right.
It's a mind game more than anything. And I think that's the biggest part. And the part that interests me most is just, you're trying to guide these people in mentally more than anything, just from an accountability perspective. I mean, the X's and O's, the food, the cardio, the drugs. I mean, you can only do so much tinkering with it. A lot of it's just the mental fortitude of the person you're coaching that's going. I tell people all the time, I can only open the door. You're the one that's got to walk through it, type scenario. Right. Or this is, this is your ship. You're driving the boat. I'm just kind of here to help you steer it a little bit. That's it.
Exactly. I don't even feel like you open the door. I feel like you just kind of lead them to the door. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, no, I agree.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about last time, where and this all kind of ties back into people just that fragile mindset when you get to a certain point in prep where it's like, say they come to you in the off season and they're like, oh, dude, I've been watching all your stuff. I really think we're in alignment with how we think, blah, 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 blah. So they're sold. Like we're going to start now. We're going to do an off season. Then we're going to go into a prep. Right. And in the off season, they're on board. You give them something that's totally new. It's out of their comfort zone. And that's what I'm saying. They hire you for you to make them win. You're like me. You don't really try to sell yourself to someone. You overpaint the picture of how hard this is. That way, if it does run them off, it's less of a headache.
Right.
You know? And so they're coming to you and they're like, I'm going to hire Ronald because I believe everything that he exudes on all the platforms that I follow him by, he's going to be the person that's going to lead me to the biggest victory or whatever it may be. And then once they get into prep, you're, like I said, you're simplifying their life really, really, really simple as far as their foods they're eating, their day to day, and then their mental just kind of shifts. And then, like I said, within 6 weeks, that's where they become, in my opinion, fragile. So like, that's when you get the second guessing of like, are they talking to other people? Is this person, and that's what I'm saying. When they hire you and everything's good, the food's good, they're hiring you because you're going to make them win. You get to a certain point to where you're really pushing them. You're actually not having to go through prep. You're not sitting at your house miserable at 8 o'clock and you're fixing to eat your last meal at 8 o'clock. And then you got to be up for 2 hours before you go to bed. You're actually getting to sit here, thinking right, make good and say, hey, no, man, eat that meal and chew on some ice and go to bed. And then that's when they're like, you're pushing them so hard that they're all these different things are going through their head where it's like, is this the coach for me? I know that, this guy's doing the show. This is his coach. He looks amazing. I'm looking at myself and you know what I'm saying? All these things start to play a part. They hire you for you to make them win. But then all the prep shit happens and then you can't, and that's what I was telling them. You can't actually make them win. You can put them in a position to where their physique draws a lot of attention, but at the end of the day, you can't control who shows up either.
Absolutely not. And that's
and all of that is just this whirlwind of like emotions and changes. And it's like, you have to be mentally, if you know what you're doing, you're really on your shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you're basically controlling this person's mind because other than the job, you're controlling what they think about all day long.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's where it helps is, I know you and I've been through it. And I mean, there's nothing I've ever put a client through that I probably haven't done twofold. I've done the 3-4 hours of cardio. I've gone weeks upon weeks eating nothing but fish and asparagus. And just all these things that if you heard that now, you'd be like, man, that's crazy that you did that. And so like, if somebody bitches at me for, putting them on 75 minutes to 90 minutes cardio, I'm like, dude, you don't even know. Like, you don't even know. There's not even enough hours in the day to do what I was doing. And I think that helps a lot with just if you have a coach that's been through the ringer. But to your point earlier, like if people are going off talking to other people, it's over. Like, I mean, because they're gonna take a little piece of this guy's information that they liked, a little piece of that. And we see it all the time at shows. People have come up to us that have coaches and they're asking you and me what to do. And I'm like, dude, do not talk to me. Whatever your coach said. Now, I'll say I may have been guilty if I think something is just some of the most asinine things I've ever seen in my life. They're like, hey, man, it's prejudging. We need to fill out. You need to eat a ton of ice cream, a ton of pizza, and injectable Lasix. I might be like, man, I don't know about that. Because, I've tried that, and I know that's not work.
Right.
And you know what? That's so funny is like Ronald and I have a lot of similarities in personality. Like he will say that and has no shame in saying it. And that's what I love about him is like, when you ask his opinion, he'll indirectly give you his opinion without even meaning to. And then if you ask, you're really going to get his opinion. And if you don't like it, well, I'm sorry for you. You know what I mean? Like you asked, I told you, and that's just how it goes. And that's what I love about him. And that's why his take on bodybuilding is one that I really, really appreciate because as closed-minded as we can all be, and the way that we do the things that we do, our isms and what separates us in bodybuilding, I can say something to Ronald and he can turn it around in his head and be like,
You're muted. Hey,
with in bodybuilding.
There he is.
It's just I wish there were some things I could tell you, like, or it's not that I can't tell you. It's happened so many times where talk about J-Buck, the year you coached him. How crazy was that? Like when we talk about emotions and what was that? That was another USA. That wasn't the same USA's, right?
No, that was 2017. 2017, I think. Yeah, no, we all missed the last. I don't even know what he was saying.
Yeah.
I think I know where he was going. Him and I, we do things a lot differently. Like him and I, we've had a ton of arguments. Like, but it's like I see the way Turner makes decisions, and there's a reason behind every decision he makes. There's a why, and that's the same. As long as I can see that there's a methodical process that you went through to get from point A to point B, I'm good with it, and it makes sense. And it's where we were saying is I think we all lost you for a couple minutes when you were talking.
My bad. I think go ahead.
No, you can't. When you came back in is when you brought up the USA's J-Buck thing.
For some reason, my headphones were in my bag and they clicked on. That's why I had to take off and go get them.
I got you.
What did I miss? I know you started talking.
No, I was just saying. I think I knew where you were going when we missed out on that. Is you and I, we were very bullheaded in a lot of the way we think about things, and we spit ideas off each other. And I've seen the two of us grow, and we've changed the way we think on so many different levels from when we first started this 12 13 years ago competing. And it's been really cool to see. But I was saying is you and I, like, one thing I respect about you is a lot of the ways you go about things, it's like, shit, I've never even thought about that. And when I kind of wrap my head around, I'm like, man, that sounds crazy, but it actually makes sense. There's a methodical way. I was just saying, you get from point A to point B, and you have a reason why you do it. And that's the big thing I stress to my clients. I'm like, look, anytime you want to know why we're doing something, please ask me, because I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. There is a reason why we're doing this.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I love it when I can be in a conversation. We talked to somebody on here. I can't remember who it was, but you said, and I said, I'm so set in some of the ways that I do things that when someone does approach me with another idea, I'm like, okay, like my brain has never allowed me to think any other way than the way I've been thinking. And so when someone does, give you some sort of different outlook on it, I think that, I don't know. I'm the type where, like I said, I just see it one way. And so when a good idea comes across, I'm kind of like, okay, I never thought of it like that. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, I still learn and change the way I do things now, even. I mean, it's, I try to, it's hard to do. I try to stay open-minded. Like when somebody comes to me and they say something stupid as shit, I try to take a step back and just,
absolutely,
why does that make sense? And, sometimes it definitely changes my perspective on things.
I think that's what I said when I cut out.
You were saying that?
Hey man, let me ask you. So obviously you and Turner, you have this relationship where you guys can bounce this stuff off of each other, where you respect him enough to where if he does throw something out of the box at you, you're willing to break it down. Who else within bodybuilding do you have that did that for you or currently does that for you? Because the reason I ask is because we are all kind of a combination of the people we've either been coached by or worked with or worked alongside, whatever it is. So, just hearing this like level of knowledge, but also like real life experience that you obviously have, who are some of the other people that you've kind of pulled from to develop what is your style now?
I've worked, my first coach was a local coach here in Memphis, Chris Caldy, who I picked a lot of stuff up. I worked with Don Long for a few years. I picked up some good stuff from him. I worked with Jason Theobald, picked up some stuff from him. I'd say the closest two people that I bounce ideas off today are Turner and Andrew Vu. I think Andrew Vu probably has one of the best eyes in the industry when it comes to bringing somebody in. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's almost like I don't know. I don't think this is given enough credit to what he does, but like he puts a ton of confidence in you, like to where like that stress is almost out the window when you're going out, and he knows how to make moves. He keeps it simple. That's one thing I love about Andrew and Turner too, is like they keep it simple. Like it's like to the point. I got to a point where I was probably complicated things. I was wanting to do, glucometer readings every meal. You're trying to time this thing down to the 10th minute, because if you take your growth hormone 27 minutes before a meal, it's going to negate the whole process. And so like we're setting 8 watches and timers, and at some point it just gets overwhelming. You guys take a step back. And that's where I really respect people like Andrew Turner. Like, look, they bring the simplicity. And the longer I've been doing it, is I've gone back to just simplifying things so much. You're like, hey, you know what? If you take it after your meal, it's going to be okay, right? I mean, at the grand scheme of things, you're going to be fine. And I think some of the bigger things, but those are the 2 people I talk mostly still probably with bodybuilding and stuff. And then obviously coaches and just, I've listened to every podcast out there probably. And so you pick up tidbits from a bunch of, big coaches out there. And some of them you're like, man, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I don't know how people pay you. But then some of it you're like, those are really good perspectives. And you just, like you said, it's a conglomeration of everything. You just pick everything up and you kind of say, I like a little bit of this. And, I forgot, what was it? I was joking with Andrew probably about 6 months ago. And I was like, why do you give everybody white rice meal 1? Or a lot of people he's like, because that's what I like meal 1. I eat fucking white rice meal 1. And it's like, it's that simple.
You're Asian, dude. Yeah. You're Asian. Of course you like white rice. That's why you're always a middleweight.
I think.
Hey, let me ask you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Seriously.
I was going to ask you a follow-up because you made a great point, and I just personally it hit home because I'm going through this myself. Where for a bit there, I was caught up kind of in like the spreadsheet bodybuilding, spreadsheet coaching. You know what I mean? You use that as kind of a way to sell people that you're organized and all these things.
Right.
But that doesn't work for everybody because like we've talked about, like, man, for me as a client, even that becomes too much because I'm just so neurotic. I'm so insane.
Right.
So, you mentioned like the glucometer and all this stuff. What are some examples of things that maybe you felt like were just must-haves or huge part of your process that eventually as you grow, you just say, fuck it and scrap it completely? Because I'm there with the glucometer right now with my clients. I sent out a wholesale message the other day and I said, you know what? I don't want anybody taking fasted blood glucose. I don't want you to be stressed. I don't want you waking up earlier. I don't want you to walk around in a funk because you were at 97 all day. So just fuck it. We'll take bloods and pull A1C and we'll know what we need to know. So
exactly.
You mentioned that. So what are some other examples? Just for anybody listening, coaches or whoever, and I'm interested for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have people check their HRV because I was getting into the whole recovery thing. I was wanting people to track their deep sleep. How long were you in, stage 4 and all this shit. And it just gets to be so much like, God, and don't even get me started on health supplements.
You gotta wear an Oura ring to work with Ronald. You gotta go to
the right. You had to wear the chest monitor. Like you need to go out and spend $1,000 on all these ancillaries, and that doesn't even count towards gear or your training, your show costs. And then like the money perspective. I mean, I joke about this all the time. I took off bodybuilding in 2017 and 2018 because my wife and I were trying to get pregnant and have kids, and I saved up enough money. We bought a little lake house and a boat, and I was like, fuck. That's where you get when you don't bodybuild. But yeah, you're spending a couple $100 a month just on, every kind of supplement under the sun. And now I just, keep to a lot of the basics and, to kind of what you're saying, if blood work comes back and something's a red flag, then we may throw in some citrus bergamot at that point or may throw in some metformin or something like that. Just some little things either, or do we need to incorporate something like Lantus or insulin? I typically don't throw those in out of the gate, unless, something's come back as a red flag and something that needs to be addressed. But I try to keep it just as simple as possible. Like, I've gotten, and I don't do macros so much anymore. and Turner and I first started hanging out, he was big on writing diets, and I was a macro guy, because me personally, I didn't like if I wanted the freedom to switch out beef and salmon or something one meal and not have to worry about it. But you get to the point where I realize people don't do that so then I was like, all right, well, I'm writing your fucking diet out. And if you want to veer off of it, we need to have a conversation first. But yeah, just kind of full circle, just is mostly health subs. Yeah, the the HRV stuff was bad, and just trying to track sleep, recovery. I mean, it's just it's learning the individual too. I mean, I hate doing just a 16-week prep, and that's what so many people just want to do. Well, I only want you for a prep. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of it benefits to me being able to learn you for 3-4 months, and kind of some of the things you respond to, and see where your health markers are, because I don't want somebody to come with me 16 weeks out with their health markers are in the gutter, because then when we start throwing, gear and other stuff in, they're just not going to respond to it. And heaven forbid I'm responsible for somebody, happening to them health wise when they end up in the hospital or something like that. Those are things that just scare the shit out of me.
I think with we were talking about how like not selling yourself as a coach, like I'm sure everybody, when I got my first coach, it was just a dude who I knew competed in the gym I was in, the local powerhouse.
Yeah.
He looked like I want to look. So I was like, hey man, can I do this? And this dude took me in a room. I stripped down. He looked at me, pinched my love handles.
First time.
Yeah, I'm 23. I don't even know anything about it. He's like, he pinched my love handles a couple of times. He's like, you could do bodybuilding. He's like, when's the show? And I was like, 13 weeks. He's like, all right, we start Monday. He's like, I won't be mad if you cheat on the diet. I just won't talk to you again. And I was like,
hell yeah.
I was like, man,
that's how it should be.
Yeah. I was like, so for me, because we're talking about sales pitches, like right then and there, that guy challenged me. He was like, I'm not cheating. I'm not going to make that guy do that to me. So I still think that method works. There's a lot, it's more like a diamond in the rough, because everybody's a lot softer now 10 years later. And so I still try to employ that. Like when I have a consult or I talk to somebody, especially younger males, because I think men need to be treated like men, especially in their early 20s, like I was.
Absolutely.
So I just tell them, like, look, I want killers. If you're serious about this, I'll give you my all. But if you're not at all serious right now, do not waste my time and don't talk to me again. And I almost try to put the fear of God in them, like that guy.
Exactly.
Because maybe I get that 1 out of 5 that's going to be like a dog and wants to work. And I don't want him to like impress me like I'm his dad or older brother. I don't believe in all that shit. But if it helps him, go all in on listening to what I'm going to tell him, then that's my sales pitch, especially with males. It's just like, hey, I'm challenging you not to be a bitch, basically. I'm telling you can't do this, because it is really hard. Like I've told people, like Navy SEALs fail contest preps. It's not that it's so simple that it's hard.
Right.
So I wanted to touch on that, because I think the 4 of us are the same in that sense. Like if you challenge me in a way that like says I can't do it, then I'll do it.
Absolutely. That's kind of a similar experience I had. The Turner, Chris Galdi. I went to his house and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this bodybuilding thing, and he's like, you need to do men's physique. I was like, no, I'm gonna do bodybuilding.
He insulted you.
Yeah, like I was like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna do bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I ended up winning the novice overall at the Tennessee State, and I was like, yeah, how about that, motherfucker?
Oh my god.
Yeah, but
I don't
it's
think
just
he ever told me that. That's great.
Yeah, he told me I should do. I got stripped down. He's like, yep, you need to do physique. I was like, fuck you. I think I was 143 pounds at that show. It's but yeah,
That's
I don't.
Hilarious.
I don't do it for the money. I doubt any of us do it for the money. So that's kind of my big thing. Like if I was going out of if I really needed the income, then I'd probably try to sweeten the pot, get these guys to pay me. But I genuinely want them to succeed. I'm literally living vicariously through them. When they win, I'm so fucking happy. I'm so excited. Like, man, I'm living through them. Like, and I love that feeling. It's like, and to your point, you only get it 1 out of every 5 competitors. The other 4 just, they end up shitting the bed some form or another. But when you get that one guy with that killer instinct, that's just he's willing to do whatever it takes, and kind of what you touched on, Tommy, is a group of a demographic I've really enjoyed coaching are like those young males, like 17 to 21, 22. Like they fucking train hard as fuck, stupid as fuck, but
Yeah.
they're so passionate about training, and they're willing to just the pain and the suffering in the gym. Like they've got that dog in them. And I love training with these guys, and they're literally they're so green, they don't know anything, and they've seen, you know, what you've been able to do and what you've done, and they want to get to that point, and they don't know anything, and they literally follow everything to a T. Those are like, I would coach those guys for free all day long. Just seeing them and the way they transform, it's something so cool. Those are some of my favorite people to coach right now. When you get up
those young bucks, man, that's the next generation, and it's like you almost feel like you did bodybuilding a service if you save one of them from going down a mainstream sheet path, and you're like, hey, I can make you a killer and look better than all these other fuckers if you just listen to what I say for 18 months straight, and you're automatically you've run laps around these dudes.
I've got this thing I do with anybody. If you're in school, like a lot of them are in college. I mean, I've coached high school people. Obviously, those people, that's kind of one of my big things too, is I ask people what they do for a living, because they don't realize how expensive this is. But if you're in school and you come to me and want my help, I'll coach you for $50 a month. And we'll just as we go, we'll just go. It's been really rewarding at this point. I haven't been burned because, you know, like we talked about, just that younger generation. And I mean, some of them come out being straight monsters, and you're just like, hell yeah. Like that was I would have done that for free. It was worth every penny.
I will say Tennessee, like you guys have a different, that state is just still like, even in 2023, like there's still a passion for open bodybuilding in Tennessee. And I'm sure you two are a big part of that, because like I'm from Michigan originally, and open bodybuilding's been going on the downhill slide since 2014 when I started, especially 2016 when Classic came in. In Arizona, it's like there's some good dudes in Arizona, but most of them are at the national level now. Like the younger guys, or the current crop of open bodybuilders at the local levels, it's like a dime a dozen. You get like a decent dude, and then there's five dudes who had no idea what they were getting into.
Right.
So I think, you know, Tennessee is just, you guys still have it must roll downhill, because there's still dogs coming up.
I think we still, you know, have a decent, but I mean, it's fallen. I mean, the cool thing now is Classic, right? Chris Bumstead, and that's, everybody wants to be the next Chris Bumstead. It's just, you know, but now a lot of these guys, you see them training in the gym with their tripods, and everybody's doing their most classic pose, and they don't even have a muscle to show off to begin with. That's become the thing, you know, because obviously when we were all coming up and started doing this, Classic didn't exist. I don't think my first year competing, we didn't have men's physique yet. It came on the very next year. So like and I think you just gotten women's bikinis. So you didn't really have the options. And, you know, I don't blame the NBC one bit for adding all the different divisions. They want bodybuilding. They want fitness, physique to be conclusive to everyone. Anybody that has a dream to get on stage, they can do that and have a chance to winning, disregarding how much muscle mass they have or per se. You know, like the Tennessee State show here, I mean, like last year, I mean, I'd say we still had we probably had, you know, what do you say, Turner, 5, 6 pretty good guys that may not be necessarily national quality yet. A couple of them probably could go compete on that stage, maybe get top 10 or something. But you know, but there was some good conditioning in there, and some guys. That's my thing, is just when you go up there and you see a guy just peeled to the bone, even if they don't have a ton of muscle, but they've got some relatively, you're just like, dude, that guy has fucking been busting his ass. Like, immediate respect right there.
We talked about this. We talked Thursday, and we talked about this exactly, where it's like, as a coach, and even like as an athlete, a lot of times it's like, if you're gonna miss one way or another, you don't, you know, you'd want to miss flat and peeled because of what you just said. You didn't bring up, man, you know, Turner, did you remember seeing that guy with the big full shoulders? You didn't say that. You said, man, I'm looking for the most dug out guy.
Right.
So I want to get into like your mindset as a coach. Do you kind of err on that same side? Like what is your process like down at the end? I know it's going to be totally different. You know,
yeah,
like,
certainly. And I'm me personally, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of muscle for somebody to bring in a little bit sharper, crisper condition. In my mind, it's more of a body fat competition than anything. If the guy like control the variables, like you know, the muscle you got, you should have had that last off season. Are you going to lose some fullness and things like that? I mean, it's just part of the game. If you want to come in just peeled to the bone, then you're just going to have to sacrifice some of that weight. And you know, I've even got some competitors where it's like, you know, the weight just that fucks with them so much that some of them have gotten even smart with me, and they're like, "Oh man, dude," they'll start. They know what kind of signs I'm looking for when they're super fatigued and quote unquote need a refeed. Like, oh man, I'm so flat right now. I'm dragging. I can't even get a pump in the gym. My strength is down. I'm down 4 reps on my top set now, and just they'll start making up all this shit. But you're like, dude, you look fucking awesome. This is the best you've gone. We're gonna have to keep pushing. You're progressing. And that's kind of one. And so I judged for a few years. But back before is when coaches still could judge in Tennessee. My wife and I judged for 3 years. And some of our head judges that are, you know, they're great. They do a great job. I think Tennessee has really good crew. There's no politics involved. Genuinely, the best guy is going to win. You know, I would argue with someone because I'm always the guy that was leaning towards that hard, crisp condition. I want to give that, you know, that harder guy who may not, you know, have as full of muscle bellies or maybe an incomplete chest. I want to give him the nod over this big, full, just, you know, guy who's just not as hard. He didn't look like he suffered as much. And that's just me, because when you've been through the trenches, you know how hard that look is to obtain. You know, the guy that has got the full muscle bellies and everything, he's probably, you know, sitting back on the recliner watching TV while this other guy's on the fucking stepper for an hour or two a day. And you know, that's kind of goes through. So to answer your question, I mean, I always lean towards conditioning. You know, and kind of know we were going to bring it up a little bit. Like, I mean, that's why Ross Flanagan won the California Pros League. Dude was dug the fuck out. Tonio, amazing shape, structure. He just, you know, did that conditioning won this last weekend. I think that played a big role too.
Hey, I want to add. I want to add
people
something.
messaged me about that and said they were in person at Cal and they were just like, just watching Ross move, not even hit poses, just like his movements, like your eyes go to him just based off what's happening from how dug out he was. So that goes to show that, like, I mean, if you go out of your way to get as conditioned as you can, you're gonna put yourself in a place to where you're competitive. We were talking about like how you can't tell a competitor, like, if you do everything I say, you're gonna win, because it's a subjective apples and oranges game. But I try to tell people, like, hey, you'll be competitive, and at the end of the day, that's where you want to be.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell everybody, you can't control. I say, if Derek Lunsford shows up, you're fucked. Yeah. Right. It doesn't matter what you do. If he comes to your show, you're done. Don't even worry about it.
Hey, something I want to add to all that we were just talking about. This is one thing that Ronald does, and it's like, it's one of those things I would never even think to do. But say you're coaching these people into a show, and you're aiming for. And Ronald's one of those, like, he'll look at someone's body type and he'll say, well, man, dude, their waist is wide as fuck. So I probably need to bring them in fuller so they have some shoulder popping, when I'd be like, fuck that shit, man. Let's just keep them, you know, not no carb, but like, get those motherfuckers, just show every single vein, striation in their body. And Ronald will look at a person totally different than I will. And he'll be like, because like when we judge, he's always got one person and I've always got one person. And it's kind of a total look thing that we're going for. But what I'm getting at is, like, Ronald will send a person into battle the night before the show, and they'll look, you know, he's basing on the look that they're going to get in the morning, right? It is about how they looked at night, but also they're going to get X amount of hours of sleep. That's another big thing. He's huge on the night before the show, like get in bed by 7:30 and don't get out of bed. It's got to be pitch black dark. Don't get out of bed until 5 or something like that. But then say they go into the show and they don't actually win the show or, win the class or whatever. He's like, all right, so this is what I want you to do. We brought you in lean, flat, lean on the, flat, dry side. I want you to do this, 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 and this, and do that for the next 3 meals. And let's see what a fuller you looks like. When I would just be like, let's take it easy, blah, blah, blah. Ronald's like, we've seen that we sent you in flat, dry, hard. It didn't get the look we want. So let's just see what we can do by the end of the night show. Let's see what the look is that we can, you know what I'm saying? You're going to get 2 different looks at this point, right? And he's a person that I would usually not do that. I'd probably fill him out a little bit, but I wouldn't be like, fuck it, let's just see what you look like 8 pounds heavier at the night show.
I mean, and that's just one of his at that point.
Yeah, exactly. You have. So it's like, and that's go ahead.
I don't know if they gain 8 pounds, but I mean, I definitely don't mind putting a half gallon of fluid in them and maybe a gallon of fluid, and then having them eat a couple burgers and fries and just kind of see where that gets us, because we're just it's another tool at that point, a frame of reference to where we can do comparisons. That way, as nice as it would be to get this guy to stay fucking shredded for 7 days after the show, so you could maybe gather a little bit more data. It's not going to happen. So I'll just try to see it both ways.
Yeah, no, that's like it's good for like client retention, because you can say, hey, we saw this, now we're going to do this, and that's going to build into the next phase.
Like when I've seen him do that. I've seen him be like, look, dude, all right, you're having that talk that we've talked about before post show where it's like they're bummed out, they didn't win, but he's like, I want you to drink a gallon of water. And I'm looking at him like, a fucking gallon of water, dude? He's like, start drinking now and don't stop drinking until I tell you to stop drinking. And I'm just like, if anybody knows he might not even know what he's doing, but he's got a good idea and his heart's in the right spot. And like, we're going to see what fucking happened, when I would just be like, 4 ounces every meal. Let's keep that up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've just seen him say some stuff and do some stuff. And again, I'm not calling him dumb. I'm just like, wow, that's totally different than something that I would have someone do. And I'm not right. He's not right. You got to take each individual person different and use that same scenario on them. And it's just our way of gathering data and ideas and tricks and tools. And then you got this big notebook that you keep with all these ideas in it. You know what I mean? That's not what that is. But in my head, I've got that.
No, Turner, we know you draw your competitors flat and then you draw them full with a pencil.
I do. That's my notebook, Tommy. All the notebooks we're talking about is me drawing. I've got a couple drawings of you.
I have no problem doing it. I personally think it's advantageous to do that, and it kind of gives them the next goal to set for, because they're like, to your point, they're bummed, they've lost, and then some of these guys, just the body type, they can't get that. Maybe it was somebody that used to be 300 pounds, and the leaner and leaner you get them, the looser and looser their skin gets. So you're like, well, fuck, we just need to keep you fuller. Yes, you're not going to come in with glutes or anything, but at this point, I don't want you to have all this loose, flabby skin coming off. So we need to fill out. And when I'm saying fill out, like, I'm referring to food and fluids, just so we can try to make the skin just as tight as possible. And yeah, you're probably quote unquote spilled over at that point, but your skin's a lot tighter against your body. And I think it's a more pleasing look. But it just depends on the person you're coaching, right? I mean, if they don't, if their ultimate goal is to win first place in the open of just a regional show one day, like, and right now they're getting, second to last and, third place. And like, we've all coached people like that, but their heart's in the right place. We're just trying to see where the best look is. So I'm trying to capture 2 different looks in one show, really.
I think that, going back to how to deal with someone that's like, I want to win, coach, I'm coming for it all, blah, blah, blah. Like, a lot of coaches they'll feed that and hype it like, yeah, you're going to win. But I think, what I gathered from you two and the 4 of us probably together because we got a handful of messages after having Cade on a few weeks ago where people almost resonated with Cade's story of like how long it took him, and he had to keep getting punched in the chin and keep coming back until they can't deny you anymore. And that's what true open bodybuilding gives you, is like, you're probably going to lose a lot more shows than you ever win. You're probably going to lose a bunch of them before you finally win one. I mean, Gary Turner won't mind us saying this, like, it took him 13 years to win an overall. He just won an overall Saturday. He's won his class. He's got top 10s.
I saw that, man.
And that's like, you hung on and you stood the test of time to finally, like, if you asked one of these 21-year-olds, could you stick this out for potentially 10 years before you're the last man standing? That's a big ask of someone. So you kind of got to sell them of like, you're probably going to lose, honestly, but you set a new benchmark for yourself and you just keep showing up. You keep showing up, you keep knocking on the door, and eventually you get to walk through the door.
Yeah, I used to, Turner, like Cade, Turner and I mean, it took me 6 national. No, I'll never be the bodybuilder Cade is. Cade mops the floor with me. But I finally won my pro card on my 6th national show. And I mean, it took 10 years competing before I finally won it. And I mean, I think 25 shows total. So, and Turner, so like whenever I have guys come to me, I use Turner as my example. You look at this motherfucker's physique and you're like, this is a pro physique all day. How is this motherfucker not even a pro? And then, because I'll have some guy with not a lick of muscle on him. He's like, I'm ready to go to my next show. I'm going to win pro. And I'll be like, hey, I'll send him a picture of Turner. I'll be like, hey, what do you think of this guy? Like, dude, he's fucking incredible looking. Wow. And I'm like, yeah, he's a fucking amateur. And they're like, oh, fuck. Are you serious? I was like, yeah. He just missed his pro card by like 2 spots. And they're like, all right, maybe it's going to take me 2 years, not just 1.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is like
when you get the inquiry of like, they almost have it laid out. Like, I'm going to do this show, and I turn pro like yearly. Is that how you handle that?
Yeah. I mean, it's not realistic. And I love using myself as an example. People like Turner example, fucking Cade as an example. Like it's not these overnight phenoms like your Derek Lunsford's, they just don't fucking happen. It's not normal. It's that's what we see on Instagram, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. But like, hey, if you were gonna be Derek Lunsford, odds are you would know by now, or fucking Carlos Thomas or whatever. Like you would have mounds of muscle coming off of you just from looking at a weight and a meal of chicken and rice. You'd put on 3 pounds of tissue just looking at it. Like it does not happen for 99% of people out there. And I mean, you see people like Cade, he maximized his genetics, like every single pound. I mean, he came in there and earned. That guy was skinny as a rail basketball player, not a lick of muscle on him. And then he turned into like over 300 plus peeled to the bone, super heavy, which we don't see very often. And just people don't realize like how long that process takes. Everybody wants the overnight instant gratification. They see the final product, but they don't see all the work that took you to get to that point. And I'm sure this has been hit on numerous times on this podcast, but it's just something people don't, think about. Nobody wants to look at the journey. They just want to look at the final outcome.
Yeah, dude, listen to this.
To that point, oh, go ahead, Turner. Go ahead.
You go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, to that same point, like, man, there's a lot of people, like, if you tell them like there are no promises, like you're gonna do this for 10 years, and there are 0 promises that even at the end of those 10 years that you're gonna be any good. If you put it like that, like we were talking about before, like, promoting ourselves as coaches or whatever, I say stuff like that the same way that you were saying earlier, like you kind of hit them with the real shit, because that will tell me right away what type of mindset that person has. Like if I tell you that this, like, yeah, man, you got really good shape. I see that you're all in. Do it for another 10 years, and then we'll really see what you have there. And it still might not be good enough. Are you okay with that? Like, are you willing to go all in knowing that there's nothing guaranteed at the end? And it's just something that's lost. Like if people listen to Cade's story, man, like there's a lot of people that would have given up even 75% of the way through and said, man, you know what? I gave it a good run and I just don't have it, or it's just not me. So as a coach, I'm wondering, like, when someone is in that spot, what do you say? Like, you know, you've talked about scaring people off or whatever. What is your screening process like? Like, what are some of the things that you're looking for to where you would turn somebody away? What is someone, what does someone have to do as a red flag to be completely turned away?
You know, I don't
Ronald won't turn anyone
necessarily.
away. He won't turn anyone away.
I was gonna say, I don't necessarily. If somebody's naive and they just, you don't know what you don't know, I'm not gonna blame them for that, right? And I appreciate big goals. I appreciate people that are like, I want to be the next fucking Mr. Olympia. Set them for the fucking stars. I don't care. But like when it comes down to, but kind of like what you followed up, I'm like, look, let's give this 5 years. I'm talking about 100% commitment. I'm talking about 365 days a year, eating so much in the off season, you're going to throw up, willing to do, the drugs, everything that it takes, willing to spend, let's talk about the money portion, willing to spend X amount of money on growth hormone, insulin, whatever it takes for your body type specifically. And then let's come back and let's see where you are. And then let's have a more realistic conversation. But I was like, you need to get that thought out of your head to begin with. I can appreciate your goal, and hey, let's, we all have 5-10 year goals. I love that. And, aim fucking big. I really do believe in that. But kind of like you said, like give this sport everything you got before you just start assuming things are going to happen. I mean, because there's so many guys out there without a lick of muscle, and it almost is, it's almost a slap in people like my face, Turner face and stuff. You're like, dude, I mean, what the fuck am I over here? Chopped liver. I've done every fucking drug there is on the planet and just pushed as much as that I could. I've eaten as much fucking good. And this is all I got to show for it. Like, at some point there's just a reality you got to grasp.
I will say too, to be fair, on the flip side, you need to give it 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, because there might be somebody that right now comes and sends you an inquiry as a coach and they tell you that they want to be Mr. Olympia. And guess what? That might have been 2014 Derek Lunsford. And then now 10 years later, we talked about him as this prodigal son of bodybuilding. And it's like, go look at what he looked like at Junior USA in 2014. If that kid came to me and said, I want to be the fucking guy, I want to be the man, I probably, just honestly knowing myself, I probably would have told him, hey man, we need to dial this back. Like, I don't know that that's in the cards for you, but that's why you need to give it the time, because man, you don't, a lot of us are not going to really see like results to where you catch anybody's eye until in your late 20s or your early 30s.
Right.
I think you can take that goal that like, okay, I want to be a pro, or I want to be this, I want to pro shows, Olympia. And then you give it a sub goal. So where do you live? What's the best show in your state? All right. That's your goal right now. You're going to win that. You're going to do that show as many times as it takes to win that. From there, you go to the next step. You give them something to focus on that they can hyper fixate on. That's a lot more realistic, closer to where they're at. And then if they do win that show on their first try, you'll probably know like, oh shit, I got a diamond in the rough. Let me put every single asset into this, and I'll ride with him all the way up.
Yeah,
but most people, you're not winning. Even head shows are falling. You're probably not winning your first show of the overall, unless it's just a really shitty fucking show.
Look, I was going to say this. You like to say 5 years or 10 years or whatever, because realistically, that's about that's what I was going to say is I've got clients that I've been coaching since 2015, 2016, where, instead of giving them that 10-year goal or whatever, you just like, I've got to a point now where I say time. You just need more time. Like I've got guys that I've coached to be good bodybuilders since 2016. And I feel like I still have the same conversations with them where it's like, we made a long journey through 4 or 5 years, and it's like, okay, there's a glimpse now that you are going to be good. It just needs more time. It might be another 4 more years. It might just mean 2 more years, and then it's a breakthrough year. But it's like I feel like sometimes I'm having the same conversation with people, and I don't really put a year or 2 on it. Sometimes I might say like, we've heard you're one solid off season away, but it's taken some people 7 solid off seasons, because that's how it was for me. Like it was not a, oh, you didn't have you had a mediocre off season. Like Ronald will tell you, as long as he's known me, it's been like as hard as you can push, as hard as you can push as hard as you can push. And I still need fucking time. Like legit. Now, some of the off seasons within the last 2 years or so haven't been as hard as maybe like earlier years, but like I've got guys where I'm still telling them after I've pushed them like dogs, like damn, like sled dogs. I've worked their fucking ass year after year after year, and they've each grown a spot in the sled. You understand what I'm saying? Like eventually you're going to have that dude that's the leader, but at the same time, you know, you get them as a, like I've got kids that were just out of high school that thought they wanted to be open bodybuilders, and here they are now where they're getting to a point where it's like, he looks like he's a super heavy. You know what I mean? He looks like a very immature super heavy or whatever, you know, green super heavy, but he's just now getting that look. Do I think it takes 10 years? Of course. But that's why if you just say time, you're going to see if a person develops in 1 to 2 years, like maybe a Derek Lunsford. But, you know, it's like we said, those are diamond in the rough. And I do think from time to time, you'll get a chance to work with people like that. And, you know, if you get bigger and bigger, but at the same time, people like that don't come around very often. And if they're as good as that, like that's where I feel like outside people around them get in their head. You know what I mean? And that's where you have to really, if you're a coach, you have to really like be a cuz to them. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm sure you guys have got guys where you're like a cuz, like you're basically their big brother. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I could get off on a tangent there. I do want to touch on, because you guys were on it, about Ross Flanagan. Ross Flanagan beat me in, was it 2020, Ronald, 2021?
2020, wasn't it? 2020. And that last time he competed? Yeah.
Yeah. Ross got second. Withers won that.
Yeah, Witherspoon.
So Withers won that.
No, John Withers, that's right.
Ross got second. Third was Austin. He's a pro now too. I don't know. I haven't really been keeping up with his progress, but second place nationals, wins a pro show. That's pretty dope.
Dude, that was awesome, man. I mean, he's just peeled to the bone. Was he as complete as Tonio? Tonio and I won our pro cards together. He was a light heavyweight, and I mean, gosh, he's probably what, 225, 230 now, up there. I don't know what Ross weighs, but man, his legs and just like his rear shots they were phenomenal.
Hey, Tommy,
his legs are complete. They're very I mean, his upper body probably needs to come up because his lower body's dominating his upper, but his legs are great.
They're really good.
Is he planning to do the Olympia?
I don't know why he wouldn't. I mean, I'd feel like, I mean, personally, I mean, gosh, if you have the ability to qualify and do that, I feel like you almost have to take it. Like, that's the pinnacle, right? That's not necessarily why we're all doing it, but I'd say it's that would be one of those bucket list dreams if you're into bodybuilding.
Man, that's an achievement in and of itself. Like just stepping on the stage and saying you're an Olympian, bro. You go get the tracksuit.
That's my opinion.
100%. Yeah. And I listen to all these guys, all these same podcasts, we all do. But if there's one thing to pull from some of these older guys now that are retired and, you know, they use these podcasts to reflect on their careers, every single one of them say that one of their regrets are times that they were qualified and didn't go to the Olympia.
Right.
I mean, just, you know, not this, I mean, you know, and you know, your take was, well, I don't want to step on that stage and talk with the show. Well, guess what, man? What if you get in a fucking car wreck and you become a paraplegic? Then what are you going to fucking do then? That's like, let's go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity. That's just them, you know, that if I wouldn't even care if I was going to be last place. If I had the opportunity to step on that fucking stage, I would take it in a minute.
Yeah.
Not think twice.
Look at because there's a lot of success stories. Like Ronnie got his ass kicked at the Olympia. Jay didn't do, like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of guys who started at the bottom and climbed up. You never know it's going to be you, but you got to take that while the iron's hot, because there is no guarantees. Yeah, you could get in a car accident or get told you have some terminal condition.
Exactly.
Game over.
I mean, you know, Turner, not to go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say too, from Ross's perspective, I mean, I'm pretty sure he owns and is involved in like 4 or 5 different businesses. Like, man, even just from that perspective alone, like the notoriety and the attention that you're going to get for your businesses. Like, man, he makes a living like either directly or indirectly through bodybuilding. Go do the Olympia. You're qualified. You earned your spot.
Yep.
And I don't know personally or whatever if he'll decide to do it, but I mean, I would imagine he would. And to kind of Turner, not to put you too much on the spot, but I mean, you were right there. Like I had you in the top 2. Obviously, it's a biased opinion, but I genuinely, as unbiased as possible, I had you in the top 2 in that class that year. You got 4th. And all I'm just waiting on is when you're going to step back and finally finish what you started.
I need to.
Let's set a goal right now. Let's set a goal
24.
right now. Huh?
24 next year.
Okay.
Nationals next year. So that gives me the rest of this year and then all of next year to prep. Tommy's going to be there. Tommy's going to be he's going to be like carrying my jock strap.
I'll carry your jock strap if you end up on stage. We'll split it.
Hey, wherever Turner's at, I'll be there for sure.
That's right.
Let me ask, because I mean, Turner, did you self-coach yourself to your pro card, Ronald?
For the most part, yes. But those last 4 weeks, I was sending my check-ins to my wife, to Turner, and to Andrew. Okay. And I was sending myself check-ins the whole prep. But man, those last 4 weeks, like we've been talking about, your mindset change. Like mentally, everything becomes, you start over analyzing things. Like, so I'm starting to run ideas by them that I would never in a million years let one of my clients do. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But for some odd reason, I think it might work for me. And so Turner's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Get out of your head. And that's the main thing is like, somebody that's going to, because I'm the type that I'm like, all right, more, harder. And those are the type people that keep me grounded. Like, no, you need to kind of take a step back and let's just really think about what you're doing here. And then, Turner couldn't make it to the show, but fortunately I had Andrew there. And I mean, that dude was coming in my room every couple of hours, just kind of checking up on me, making sure everything was good. And he really helped just kind of keep me out of my head and keep me confident.
My follow-up to that is, Turner, do you rely on Ronald those last? Because I know you self-coach basically the majority of the prep. Is it mutual?
Hell no, I would never ask him his opinion. No, yeah, I definitely do. I mean, like I said, he knows I think a certain way, and Ronald could probably tell you what I would probably do. That's probably how well he knows me in a situation of whatever the situation may be. If Ronald was sitting right there and he could look at the same body as me, looking at, he could probably tell you what I would say do. And if it was me, it'd probably be wild. You know what I'm saying? Like the night before, what do we do? Blah, 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 blah. But I always do. I mean, you were at 2020. I mean, he's been at a lot of my shows. And he's been a big part of like my bodybuilding, because he is a person that I could just say anything to. Like him and I may not text for 4 months, and I might say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he would shoot me straight. Like, and they wouldn't shoot me straight. He would just tell me exactly what he was thinking. Like, that's a stupid idea in his opinion, and why. That's a smart. He'd be like, that might be a good fucking idea. And then as far as pictures go, like, I don't know. I mean, I've got a bunch of stories that I could tell about positions where Ronald would say do this, or I would say do this. But ultimately, I do go to him because, and that's another thing. Like, I'm fragile at the moment. So when I do go to him, I have to watch what I say or how I ask it because of how he's going to come back to me, right? Because like that's when I start getting even more in my head of what he's going to say or didn't say, or maybe. I don't really ever know what he's going to say when he does say something to me. If I need to push harder, I know I need to push harder. But like, and I think he understands that too. So like, we've had a bout.
Yeah, I think that was your last prep. I remember you sent me one of your pics, kind of just to check up how you're going. I was like, dude, you need to push harder. And I think I sent you a picture of middleweight, what you looked like on stage. You're like, yeah, you're right. I need to push a little bit harder.
Yeah, I was probably still doing like Five Guys refeeds or something like that.
Well, I
Something,
mean,
and
you get caught up in the weight game. You're like, I was 217 on stage last year. I have to be heavier than that this year. When realistically, you're probably going to be 5 pounds heavier of lean tissue, even if you come in at the same weight, just fuller, sharper, crisper, as you're beginning to mature into the frame. My big claim to fame with you is I finally talked to you and eating fats.
yeah. Well, I've told those guys that. Like, there's a lot of foods, and that's what I said is, if the whole goal here is to be as fucking lean as possible, why am I eating fat? You know what I mean? So when you ask a question like, well, why would you do that? Like, well, that's how I think about it. Why would I do that? And so you've always heard like growing up, bread's what makes people fat. So in my mind, going into bodybuilding, I wasn't eating bread and I wasn't eating fucking fat, right? And so those are just two of the many examples. Ronald said something totally off the wall, and it's taken me like 5, 6, 7 years before I was like, I'll try it. And then, like, it's just one of those avenues he opened up. And then obviously now I do that. Now I put other people on things like that. It just makes it gives you more of a variable when you do want variables. You understand what I'm saying? And so, like, for many years, like, every one of my clients was just a meat and a fucking rice, or a meat and a carb and a vegetable, nothing else. And so, like I said, that's just
Because that's how you got fucking huge.
I was gonna say it works. It
Yeah,
works.
It does.
It's hard to deny. I can't deny, like, if I was ever going to go to recommend to anybody for somebody that knows how to put on fucking tissue, it's just Turner. Like this shirt says it all to me. Like it fucking says everything. Like the biggest pussy, like this long Abercrombie Fitch hair to this, like it's not supposed to happen in real life.
That's right.
Yeah. He looks like a beetle on the left, one of the Beatles.
That's exact.
Or even worse, a Jonas brother.
Hey, listen, I'm not fucking gay. Get out of here.
You can be whatever you want to be. It's 2023.
It's all right, man. Yeah.
I just
Hey,
want to be a pro bodybuilder. I still just want to be a pro bodybuilder.
Hey,
like, of all the things I want.
24, you heard it here first. If you fucking jump on state nationals, you will be a pro.
How many pros
I wouldn't go for any other reason.
All right, by now, like, because
dude.
we all know Jordan Janowitz. I mean, he told me when he turned pro, he had 12 pros had finished ahead of him before he finally got the pro card, and then
Well,
he was third in his pro debut at a very good Texas show.
I mean, I have to live with that every single fucking day. You guys talk about like some of the things that drive people. Like, I have to live with the fact that the last time I competed, regardless was it my best or of showings, but like all the people that have beat me or the last showing that I did, they're all pros now. So it's like people don't think that like I have this underlying. I'm a hyper obsessor. So like I have to live with that every single day. And then you go through some of the things that I've had to deal with, battle through in my life, and not saying I've had it hard or anything, but like things have happened, and now it's like I still have to live with that every single day. So that's a big still a big goal of mine. You know what I mean? Like I'll never lose that goal or the drive for that. So it's just one of those things that fucking bodybuilding it'll put you in that position, and then you're fucked. You're fucked up for good.
Tommy, y'all probably already hit on this. I don't know. What show are you doing
this year?
Yeah. Aren't you in prep right now?
Nah, I got a couple of state ones here. The Dennis James, the bigger one, and then
nice.
Maybe something in Vegas after that. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I saw those last set of pics you posted, man. It looked good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take compliments. I'm always trying to be bigger. So,
dude, you were so sexy.
Tommy,
I'm almost 5'11", so it's like the never-ending game to fill out the frame.
Absolutely,
hey,
man.
So listen, what we were saying about the years, the amount of time that it's taking you to get to a point to where you feel like your physique is respectable, right? You're getting to a point now where you're like, okay, I mean, you still don't look at it and be like, I'm walking in and I'm waxing every ass that shows up, but like, so now when you look at these pictures every single day, how much more time do you think you need till you're that Marcus Rule look or whatever it is, the look that you have built in your head of what you want yourself to look like, the weight, all that, like how long do you think realistically? in an unrealistic sense, like how long you think it'll take you?
I already know his answer.
I think without sitting here calculating it all out, I think from the end of this contest season, 24 straight months of not missing a fucking beat. And like, I've got myself to that position now, financially, cognitively. My life is like set up to where it wasn't the last handful of years. I think if 24 months of, doing contests and going back and growing, then I could probably be, I think for me, 250 to 260 stage weight is probably my most filled out look.
At that, what do you weigh now?
I'm 230.
Yeah. I mean, I think 20 more pounds of stage weight just based on those pics I saw would be nasty. And where I was going to go with that is like, you trained with fucking Dusty Henshaw. Like, you're immediately put into perspective. You're like, Jesus Christ, that motherfucker is huge. You're never going to, because your whole life training that guy, you're the little guy, right? And so, like,
I explain that to people as far as like, bodybuilders and body dysmorphia. Mine is more like, my standard of size is like, I'm a really big Marcus Rule fan, Dorian. And then I was right next to Dusty Henshaw for all these years. And this is like Dusty not in his prime, still banging. Like, there was only one movement that I could almost do the same weight as him on. Other than that, it was like, well, let's pull a little bit off for Tommy. And it was just like, I want to make him pull less and less off for me. He's doing 10 plates a side on hack. I'm trying to get to 8 and not fuck my knees up. So
that's the best.
My version, my standard of what big is like huge. But I know logically in any gym I walk into, I'm one of the stronger, bigger dudes. I'm still, I walk around at 255 in the off season. Like, I know I'm not a small guy anymore, but to Turner's point about time, like sometimes you just need to serve more time. Like, Dusty sent me an update response once over the years. This is back when I was living in Michigan, I think, but he said, you've reached a point to where you're now a bodybuilder. And what I mean by that is when you take your shirt off, people know you're a bodybuilder, not just a guy who really loves working out. And that was 6 years into competing before that moment came. So now I can relay that to younger people, like, hey, especially the taller guys, like, no one's going to take you seriously for like none of this. I was that fucking 180-pound kid carrying a gallon jug, and they're like, the hell's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? Like, you're a bodybuilder? Like, no one person will support you, but you gotta stick it out. And so that was a great point about the time thing, because especially with the younger guys, like, they're like, what else can I do? What else can I take? Like, you can take 2 more years, just keep doing what you're doing. There's not much more to training than you've already figured out. Like, a lot of it's just keep banging iron and don't get hurt.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the big thing, man. Just injuries. Talking about those younger guys earlier. I mean, every week's got to be a PR week. I mean, I would probably say from the age of 17 to 23, I probably did a 1 rep max on bench press every week. Like, just for fucking no reason at all. It's like, because I was obsessed with just being just huge, heavy. And then just the older you get, your body's just not as resilient. I've seen a lot of people tear a lot of things doing shit like that.
I was going to ask you, did you make it out alive without tearing a pec?
No, I've got a torn pec.
Okay.
But it wasn't from those days. It was.
Oh, that's a good story. That's another good story we'll talk about.
Yeah. I tore my pec, what was it, 5 weeks out from nationals in 2016. I still competed. I ended up getting 3rd, but I didn't look good at all.
Look, let's give them a teaser of what you did, and then let's cut it right there, and then they'll have to listen to another one.
Yeah,
DNP.
we'll have to have you back on.
No. Break me down like what the last 4 weeks look like. When did you do it? How far out were you?
2016. I'd already done USAs that year. So that's July. Then you got nationals coming up. I guess at that time is Thanksgiving. They were 16 weeks apart. So at that point, I'd been in prep 20 plus. I'd probably been like 32 weeks of prep at that point. Body was just completely fucking, because I'd gotten second to Dwayne Kwamina at USA's. I was like, fuck yeah, I was going pro hard card hunting. I was just fucking I want to do every fucking show. I was right there on the cusp, And
Yep.
I probably ended up losing 5 pounds of just muscle tissue between USAs. Because that was the year, that was this show. You did USA, we did the USAs together that, and I decided to go on to nationals and do it. But yeah, man, the mindset. So I was like, all right, I got 2 or 3 weeks off, and I ended up eating like an asshole and ended up putting on a bunch of body fat. So going into nationals, I did that was the first time I'd done DNP, and I was just completely dehydrated, about worn down. I don't think I had any carbohydrates, or actually I was having fruit for my meals only, and my fats were up, but I was maybe eating 1,500 calories a day. And I had 225 on flat bench, and I was just coming down, I even had a spot, and it just Velcro ripped off my arm. Just goes, so that night I was pretty down. I went to a buddy's house. I ended up eating like a bunch of ribs and stuff. I was like, fuck it, I'm done. My whole arm is starting to, but then I woke up the next morning. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. So I was benching 5-pound dumbbells, next week, 10 pounds. And my bruise just recovered just enough before I got on the flight and went down to Miami. But man, I didn't look good at all. I was soft. I don't even know how the fuck I got third. I think it's just one of those things that I've just been in so many national shows. They just kind of knew they just automatically put me in the mix. It was ugly though.
Damn.
That
Was
is
there
a
ever
good
a
spot.
chance that Cade was going to do nationals that year? He tore his tricep.
No, when he told me, like, I'm sorry, were you asking a question?
Was there ever a chance, like after he tore it, did he ever think about still
No.
going to do nationals? Because he was posting like one arm Dorian video or
I remember
posts.
that.
It's like,
He posted
I thought he was still going to do it.
He posted a still shot of Dorian in a sling doing like a one-arm hammer, and was like I think he even posted that and was like, "This is my mood right now," or like mood or whatever. And I was like,
I thought
"Oh
he was
shit,
going to
he's
drop
gonna
in, dude.
he's
was
gonna bring
waiting
it." Yeah, yeah.
Cade is the most meticulous. Like obviously from the podcast, y'all heard it. I mean, the guy still lives the lifestyle day in, day out, and has absolutely no intentions of ever competing again. But that's just the way he is, like, and the way he works with, that's his sanity. So like what keeps him going was, I mean, after that, I mean, we talked a good little bit during that, and I'm sure Turner did too. And just, you know, there's a lot, was it called, not the law of sim, it's called like crossover training. I had read some studies and research, and I sent it over to him, and he was just like, with people that tore an ACL, but they continued to train their dominant quad. Yeah. And they had a group A and group B who didn't train versus who did. And the group that did the crossover training ended up recovering like twice as fast. Like it was the results were pretty substantial, but anyways, yeah, so he was just doing one arm training and forever.
I love it.
He's crazy in a good way. Turner, you're crazy too in a good way.
In the best way, yeah. We're coming up on an hour and a half though, and then
let's wrap it up.
I know we all gotta go. I gotta go eat. So
yeah, I'm gonna finish this Celtics Heat game 7. Y'all been keeping up with that?
I thought it was 3-0 and now it's 3-3.
I saw that
Isn't
finish
that
in the last.
crazy?
Dude, that last the finish to game 6 is like,
that was wild.
What dreams and nightmares are made of, dude. Like you're a Heat fan watching that, and like I know how I get about sports. Like I'm probably having a stroke if I'm a Heat fan in that moment.
Never been done in the history with a 0-41, 0 and 149. So like if they win, that's so I'm gonna go catch the rest of this.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your time, man. This was like
thank you guys
one of my favorite conversations
I
we've had on the show. So
yeah, I listen to the show, and you know, always trying to promote Turner and everything he does, and I keep up with Tommy. It's good meeting you, man. I definitely enjoyed it and love to come back anytime.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up. So we'll be back next time, guys. Thanks for listening.